Welcome everybody to the Straight Shoot Sunday, or first edition. It's a side conversation of our Wrestling Never Sleeps podcast, where we just usually during the week we do reviews. By the way, I'm Jared Never Sleeps. I'm here with my very handsome co-host Adam Anthony James Martin, the Straight Shoot in a suit. And typically we do review shows during the week. But we just like to have side conversations about wrestling, get connected with the fans, and have conversations that fans like to have. Adam, how are you? How are you doing this Sunday morning?
I think you already know.
If we want to get candid here.
I enjoyed the UFC event last night, so I was up a little bit late.
Yeah.
I indulged maybe a little bit more than
a little bit of the bubbly.
Yeah. A lot of bit of the bubbly. So it was a good night. 3 title fights. Can't beat that. Of course, as you know, pro wrestling fans, we get to see that on every pay-per-view. But for a UFC pay-per-view, for a lot of people that don't watch MMA, 3 title fights on one card is a long time. 25 minutes per fight, to the maximum. It was just a great time. I was just chilling with my bro, my roommate and stuff like that. So we were just kicked back, took my mind off of everything else. Focus today, though, to get into our first shoot episode on Sunday, not at the Grand Motorplex, but on the Wrestling Never Sleeps podcast.
On the Wrestling Never Sleeps podcast, the greatest podcast in all professional wrestling. Now, when we were thinking about topics to talk about, I think one thing that kind of popped up to me this morning, I'm in a bunch of different wrestling groups on Facebook. By the way, you can follow us at facebook.com/WrestlingNeverSleeps. And I see people are very 50-50 with the attitude change of Apollo Crews. And it's very polarizing. I've seen people online kind of commenting and saying that he's using a fake accent and they don't like it. And, he doesn't really talk like that. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of different stuff online as well with this on the topic of Apollo Crews.
Oh, yeah. Lots of stuff going around, circulating around the internet, and I see more negative things than I do positive by all means. A lot of people calling him phony, fake, being, really offended that, they're saying this fake accent, everything like that. They're taking it to heart. When I thought maybe it might have been the other way around, where they might have been embracing it and saying, hey, this is a barrier, this is a wall that has now come down. This is giving Apollo Crews the right to really, tell the people, tell his fans, tell the audience, who he really is, where he comes from, his background, what he believes in, and why he believes in these things. And I think that's something very rare nowadays. We used to see it back in the day, like Attitude Era had Nation. We've seen multiple stables and stuff like that, anti-American stables like the Heart Foundation. But this is 2021. It's hitting people differently, I think, because people react differently to these sorts of things. We were talking about it yesterday, Jared. No more, potato head. That's all is that what we're calling him now? Potato head?
Yeah. Which is interesting because he never had a penis in the first place. So, technically he could be anything,
But as far as I remember, if my memory serves me correct, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but Mr. Potato Head can't be Mr. Potato Head. But what's going on with Mrs. Potato Head?
I don't know. I haven't played with either in like 30 years. So I have no clue. I don't know why people are so up in arms, because I don't play with Mr. Potato Head. So I don't get why why a bunch of adults on social media are pissed off about this. I really don't understand, to be honest.
If you don't mind me asking you a question.
Sure.
By all means, from your point of view, from your personal experience, Jared, it's different here in Canada on how people are treated.
Yeah.
I like to think, at least, some of us might be a little bit more naive than the rest of us, because there is negative things that go on up here in Canada as well when it comes to race and differences in opinion and background and history, everything like that. So how is it? How do you find it in the States? Because it's not so aggressive here, I find. It's it's there. It's always going to be there no matter where you are. But do you, for me, from a Canadian, an outsider of America, I look at Americans and I see it a lot more aggressive there.
Yeah.
Is it safe to say, as a Canadian? Can I say that?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that is the misconception about race. like or racism. A lot of times racism is not just going to be explicit in your face. Racism can be implicit, it could be subtle. And if you are in the majority group, you might not understand or see the implicit racism because you're not kind of programmed to see it. Because in America, obviously, we know that there is a long history of like slavery. There was segregation, and if you really look at it, this was not really a long time ago. People trying to think it was like in distant memory. It's really not. We're in 2021, and I think slavery was abolished in 1865. So that was 156 years ago. That's only my father is 75 years old. So if my father living his lifetime back to back would be like that's how close slavery was to us. So to tie that in to a wrestling conversation, the champion has always been like a Hulk Hogan or Bruno Sammartino. It's always been like a white, straight Christian male. So the heroes of wrestling have always been white, straight Christian males. And to counter that, the black wrestlers have been like stereotypical buffoon characters. Like I've spoken before, like Kamala, whatever his name is.
Kamala.
Yeah, Kamala. Yeah, he was. I keep on because Kamala Harris. I keep on switching them.
Kamala.
Kamala, like an extremely offensive character. Virgil and $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase, an extremely offensive character. So to answer your question, racism is both implicit and explicit. And I think that if the world has always worked for you and you never had to like change your view of the world, you couldn't really like see how things could be racist,
No, totally. I think you have to it's like you said, there's subtleties about it, right? That a lot of people don't pick up on and are really naive, and maybe even it's safe to say ignorant towards the whole situation in general. They're uneducated and not going out of their way to educate themselves before giving a reply or having an emotion towards that whole topic.
Right. And then to tie this into the Apollo Crews conversation, like you said, I see people online calling him fake and saying that he doesn't talk like that, and that this is just kind of like him acting. Apollo Crews' real name is I don't want to butcher it, but it's Sesua Uha, which I'm assuming that's a pretty African name. So he has some type of African background. So his parents are probably two immigrants, and the reality is that African people or African American people, Black people, they're gonna talk different and they're gonna speak different in public settings versus like private settings. Like my roommate from college was Nigerian, or is Nigerian, and in class he speaks perfect English. At home he has a Nigerian accent because it's more familiar with his culture. It makes more sense. So like what people are missing is Apollo Crews is not really he's not being fake. He even said that, hey, I was bullied as a kid. People asked me questions like, did I ride giraffes or whatever he said, elephants in class?
Yep.
And this is my real heritage. This is my real voice. This is how I actually speak. So it's just interesting how people can't fathom that, like, hey, people might speak a little different when they're around their group of friends or a group of their community versus out in the public where like white English or standardized English has become the norm,
Right. No, for sure. And now with that being said, when Apollo Crews was first introduced to the WWE universe,
yeah,
do you think WWE had a lot to do with him not being able to do what he's doing now and wanted him to go to a totally different direction? Say, hey, maybe we can drop the accent. Maybe we can use more of an Americanized, version of your the way you speak, the way you communicate. The way you can maybe get a little bit over more with our U.S. fans. People won't be quick to judge you because they understand that there's so many variables out there that and just there's a lot of issues out in this world that people can't. It's hard for me to say. I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to offend anyone.
Yeah, well, I mean, just be open. I know anything you say, you're coming at a place of intent. You're asking questions. Yeah, and I'll answer it. Yeah, I'm not gonna be offended. Yeah, I'm trying to educate you. I'm trying to educate the audience that might not understand what's going on.
Exactly. That's why we're here doing these shoot Sundays. But like, do you think that WWE kind of put the pressure on him to drop himself, put on this Apollo character to appease the American audience more and to
So,
cater to them more?
so that is a great question, and I think that's why I gotta say I gotta give WWE their kudos for this. They do a lot of stuff wrong. Have done a lot of this stuff wrong in the past, but I think for African Americans and Black people, I think they can really resonate and connect with this story because it's really like a microcosm of what actually happens in America. You know, when you are the minority, when you are maybe the only Black guy in the office, you might be a little bit more smiley. You might be a little bit more chipper and, hey, I'm just happy to be here, and just kind of be like a character of yourself because, um, and any Black person will tell you, like, there's like, when you're in a corporate setting, when you are the minority, you are kind of taught you have to act a little bit different. You have to act a little bit less threatening. You have to act a little bit docile because you don't want to be like the angry Black guy in the office. You don't want to be the person that, because you already stick out like a sore thumb, right? And
Right.
people are not going to understand you. So it's just very interesting to see that Apollo Crews was actually, his character was the happy, smiley Black guy in the office, that doesn't want to ruffle any feathers, and he's a family guy. And it's like when we're home, we're not really like that. We're just regular people. So for him to drop the whole smiley gimmick and I'm just happy to be here and just be like, hey, I'm a king. This is my heritage. This is how I sound now. Militant. It actually is. It tells a story, the greater story, and a lot of times the greater issues in society. And I remember I saw like this Kanye West interview.
Right.
He's about to get divorced, but he was married to Kim Kardashian for many years. Kim Kardashian is like, I guess, white or whatever. And he was saying he had to sit down for like an hour. He had to sit down for like an hour and explain to his wife what the white voice is. Are you familiar with what the white voice is?
No.
Okay, cool. So
Well, actually,
basically,
you know what? Actually, you know what? I think I know because if you watch Eddie Murphy's stand up
yeah,
from the mid '80s,
yeah,
either Raw or
yeah, or what's the other one? Delirious.
Delirious, yes,
Yeah,
I believe he does the voice.
right, right. Well, here's the thing. So, all right, if let's say I'm a Black dude and I'm calling a to get a job or something. I'm on a phone interview, right? So what Black people often will do is they'll try to hide their voice to like mask the fact that they're Black. Like,
Right.
hey, my name is Billy Samuels on the phone, or hello, I'd like to make an appointment for this reservations. And they'll do that so the person on the line won't know they're Black and won't discriminate against them. So like white people don't have to deal with that type of stuff. They might not even have heard of it, or they don't have to deal with it. But we have to, or even like my cousin's name is Shaniqua Johnson. Like her resume, it could be stellar, but the fact that her name is Shaniqua Johnson is like a subconsciously to some people be like, oh, I don't want to hire her because she's obviously Black.
Like you said,
So
subconsciously a red flag might go up because of society has taught them to
right,
be
or if your name's
alarmed.
Ahmed Johnson or something like that, it's just like, oh, that person might not get the job. And I've actually heard people say before, like I remember one of my other roommates, she worked at some place and they threw out all the resumes that had a name that looked Black. Like this happens in America.
Yeah,
So
that's sad.
yeah, so the thing about Apollo Crews, for him to actually have an accent and just say this is who he is and be a Nigerian African character without being Kamala or being like a Ugandan giant or something like that, I think that's a very big step in the bigger issue with society, because now you do have Black little kids that can look up to the Apollo Cruzes and the Bobby Lashleys and the Big E's and the Sasha Banks and the Hurt Business and those type of characters, and not feel
Oh,
like
exactly.
they have to be like a savage or something like that,
No, for sure. And he's telling these kids, hey, don't be afraid. He's not just telling he's not just telling African American kids to, this message, but he's telling the world, don't be afraid of who you are. This is who I am. Embrace me and accept me, or I'm going to do it on my own. And I'm going to make sure that I do it, and I can count on myself to do it. And he's just embracing everything that
Yeah.
that he enjoys, his heritage, his culture, his lifestyle, where he's from, his background, which is amazing because you don't see that. I'm not even in everyday life, let alone, professional wrestling. People are so scared to be themselves, even when hanging out with your group of your friends. So for him to step out of that group and say, no, this
Yeah.
is my mentality now.
And for WWE to give him the platform to do that, that's a huge step.
It's huge. And it's very motivating for, I'm sure, a lot of people out there that have been hesitant to be themselves or feel like they have to be somebody else to fit in today's society, or, with their friends or whoever it is, or whatever the situation is. So it's really cool. I'm a huge fan of this. We talked about it before on the recap. It's just excellent booking for him. And I wouldn't even call it booking, because again, he's just being himself. He's just going out there and saying, hey, this is it. No more messing
around. It parallels what's going on in America now. Like, people are more conscious of this stuff and more aware of it. And even like in one of the comments I saw in one of these groups, the guy was like, well, Apollo Crews is being fake because I met him before at a meet and greet, and he uses like he talks regular. And it's like, yeah, just because he talks regular in front of you doesn't mean like that's his act. He's still playing a character. He's still being congruent with being Apollo Crews. You can meet him. I can meet the Undertaker at a meet and greet, and if he's in his gimmick, he's in his gimmick.
Exactly.
But when he goes and talks to his wife, or maybe talks to his friends, or talks to his family, whatever, he's gonna be a different person. He's gonna be
Exactly.
Sensu Uha. If I didn't butcher his name.
it's like everyone though. Like, doesn't matter where you're from. You from America, you can be from Canada. You don't talk the same way to your siblings as you do your friends. You don't talk the same way to your parents as you do your friends, or your coworkers, or you have your own lingo, you have your own way of speaking with them, you have your own encryption on how you communicate. And it's totally different everywhere you go, and it's a variable that we can't control. It's an uncontrolled variable. It just naturally happens in our brain. It just naturally switches, because again, people are designed, we're designed to be sheep, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Even like sometimes I know you, like when you send me like the voice messages, you put on your more Canadian accent, like, yeah, I get it. Like, if you in Canada, you'll talk to your friends more like that than you will talk to me. You might sound a little bit more American or something,
Exactly. And half the time, with my really close friends, they'll hear a lot of my Irish accent surprisingly comes up, here and there. So it just like the chameleon accent goes on back and forth. Right. And I don't even notice it until someone points it out to me.
Yeah.
But
it's just a more familiar way of communicating, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So for people to be up in arms, what do you think WWE, it seems like there's a bit of an outrage growing. Like, I'll call it a small fire.
Yeah.
I do see smoke, and we all know where there's smoke, there is fire. We've seen, people messaging on board and on group chats and stuff like that regarding this whole situation with his transition. How do you feel that WWE is going to continue on like this? Do you feel that something might happen to him? Like, if you remember, Muhammad Hassan.
Yep.
He was basically doing a very similar thing. We don't really know where Apollo's going with this directly, because he's only been out there once or twice with this new shtick. But Muhammad Hassan would come out and put down Americans, saying, "Hey, you stereotype us. You make us out to be the bad guy. We're just here trying to make a living like you." And just pointing his views. It was a very touchy time.
Yeah.
To take him off TV, because there was so much ill energy going towards that character, towards the company, for him being on there and being allowed to, say these things on national television. Do you think they're going to do this again with Apollo? Maybe.
Well, I mean, hopefully they've learned from their mistakes in the past. I think it's a little bit more of a time where people are just more aware, and things are definitely changing, and I think that WWE will hopefully, as they are a publicly traded company, I know they're big on like philanthropy, and they're big on like kind of just putting their for the most part putting their name out in like a good way.
Yes.
I think they're going to continue to try to just normalize just Black characters being just normal people, instead of being like just cartoonish offensive gimmicks, and you'll see that with a lot of the other characters. Like you said, there's been stereotypical Muslim characters in the past, and even like what we've done with the women's revolution, we turned them into we went from bra and panties matches to like, oh yes, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair can main event WrestleMania. So I think they're just more aware of like, hey, the world is changing. Everyone's becoming more and more equal, and we have to be a lot more sensitive to that. So majority of the champions right now are minorities. And I think WWE is starting to turn around the idea that, minorities are like lesser than. So hopefully we'll see like more and more normal characters. And I like that. I think it's good for everybody.
Now, February, and this might be a really hot topic.
Yeah,
This
go
might
for it.
raise some feathers, and this
I
is what
got
we're
you, brother.
doing.
I got you.
This is what we're here to do. We're here to shoot. Now, with February, I believe, being Black History Month,
Yes.
and now we're seeing all these African American champions come up in WWE. Do you think that was a marketing ploy on their end to help put that over and help people acknowledge, not necessarily trying to make themselves look good,
Yeah.
but to try to get the word out a little bit more by having these champions, that are African American. Black History Month, we're promoting simultaneously. We're promoting these athletes, this group of athletes. We're promoting their heritage, their month.
Yeah.
We want people to educate themselves so they're not as ignorant. I'm not trying to make this seem like they were doing it to be a negative.
Yeah.
Like,
No, go ahead. Do your thing, man. I got
way
you.
of doing it, but I think
Yeah.
they were obviously they timed it, and
Yeah.
we're seeing who the champions are, and it's not just coincidence, I don't think. But how do you feel about that, with it being Black History Month and all these African American
Well, I mean,
champions
I wouldn't be
now?
surprised if they just use that to kind of make themselves look good, because I think Stephanie McMahon is on record. She said something effective like philanthropy is the best form of marketing, which is kind of like okay, cool, but like, really,
You
that's
kind
why
of
you're
sound
doing
fake
it?
when you say that. You don't
Yeah.
mean like,
Like, really?
do you believe in what you're
And then
doing?
you hear the stories of like, I think it was Justin Roberts was saying, like, the kid Connor with cancer, who passed away with cancer. He's like, yeah, I was much closer to Connor than Daniel Bryan was, but Daniel Bryan was the babyface at the time, so they told that story instead.
Yeah.
So
And I've seen that whole Justin Roberts situation with Connor, and that was
yeah.
really cool of him.
So like, I would say that yes, they probably did it, to kind of piggyback on the whole George Floyd thing and the Black Lives Matter and the protests and the riots and all the things we've been having over the summer, over 2020.
Yeah.
However, I cannot deny I can't deny the fact that WWE has a global platform, a global audience. So I think ultimately, even if they're doing it to get their name out there, I think it does help at the end of the day, because again, I grew up on Kamala and Virgil and Booker
JYD.
T losing to Triple H. Yeah, all these kind of a Nation of Domination, which is like just a militant, like I think The Rock was the only character that was like, oh, this is just a normal black person. Like, this is a great performer that just happens to be black. He wasn't like a gimmick.
No,
That was like the
exactly.
first time I've ever seen. That was the first, and then the Rock is like kind of in this, he's in this kind of like area where he's like racially ambiguous. Like Bobby Lashley, I would say, okay, Bobby Lashley's black.
Yeah. That was The Rock Samoan?
Well, the Rock is like, is he Samoan? Like, yeah, what is he exactly? So, yeah. So,
That's
but yeah,
tough
to
one.
answer your question, like, yeah, they probably did it to time up, hey, let's piggyback on this. Wouldn't look great, but at the same time, billions of people watch the show, so the fact that I have like a 9-year-old nephew, he can look at Bobby Lashley and maybe one day say like, hey, I can be WWE champion one day. That's positive.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And it's no discredit to the athletes that are now holding those championships within the
Yeah.
organization. I didn't want to come across that as all as saying
Yeah.
that they weren't deserving and they were only given those titles just because of the coincidence of the month and them being African American. But I was going to mention
Quickly before you go further, let me speak on
for
that.
sure.
Let me speak on that. So even if, let's say, they made Bobby Lashley the champion because they're black, I don't think I'm not all right with that, because there's been so many people in history who have just been given opportunities because they're white. So it kind of just balances it out. That's what kind of like these affirmative action programs, for example, are. It's just like, hey, we're just balancing out because we screwed up so much in the past. Let's try to help to balance the scale. That's all it is. So yeah, if Bobby Lashley's the champion, because and Bobby Lashley then he looks great, he's performing, he's red hot, he should be champion. But if WWE's like, hey, let's make guys side champion of black because he's black, all right, well, cool. A lot of people were champion because they're white. So
No, exactly.
let's just balance it out now. Let's fix our mistakes from the past.
Yeah, not to say that's the right way to way to do it, but they are trying to. I think it's the only way they know how to attempt to try to make things a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, what's the solution?
Have growth within the company in that aspect.
Yeah, like to me, like reverse racism, like they'll call it reverse racism. It doesn't exist. Like racism is a sin. Like you have to kind of fix it. So the only way to fix it is to give other people opportunities who've been hurt in the past. That's just all it is. Like it's not like, oh, there's no reverse. It doesn't make sense. Reverse racism.
No, for sure. And
So,
the one point someone that we haven't really brought up, that might be categorized in the same position as you know, someone like Bobby Lashley right now,
Yeah.
was Jinder Mahal when WWE was doing the India deal.
Yeah.
Conveniently, he became WWE champion.
Yeah.
And it's not my mind. I wanted to mention it earlier, but that's a pattern that we're now seeing, right?
Yeah.
But just
sure.
that's why I originally asked the question, because I noticed the pattern. You obviously noticed the pattern.
Yeah. And Stephanie said it before. Like this is no secret.
Blatantly said, hey,
yeah,
this is what we're gonna do because of this and this.
Yeah. But again, now there's little Indian kids that see Jinder Mahal and they say, I can be the WWE champion.
Exactly.
So does it do more harm than it does good?
I saw a meme. It was like 2.2 million people or 2.2 billion people were excited for, I think it was Cena or someone that came back and won the championship, or Edge, maybe it was Edge when he cashed in or something like that. But then the meme underneath, like the second half of it, was 28 billion people cheering for Jinder Mahal back home.
Yeah. And then even like, all right, like a Hulk Hogan, I believe Hulk Hogan got his name because Vince wanted someone to represent the Irish Americans. Yes. Because the Spanish people had Tino Ortiz, was it?
No, Tito Ortiz. He's the MMA. Tito Santana.
Sorry, Tito Santana. Yeah, sorry. So the Spanish people had Tito Santana, and then you had what was the other guy? Who's the longest reigning WWE champion?
Longest reigning.
Bruno Sammartino.
Yeah, Bruno.
Bruno Sammartino. So they're like, okay, we want Hulk Hogan. Yeah, we want Hulk Hogan to represent the Irish people. But who's representing the black people? The freaking the butler, Virgil or something, or Junkyard Dog, who's barking around like just being an idiot. Like,
no, exactly. Definitely wasn't a priority for them at that time. It wasn't a focus.
Yeah. So they want everyone to have their person. I don't mind Jinder Mahal being the WWE champion. I get it's a business decision. I get that they're trying to break into that market. But a better way to break into that market than show like, hey, we are with you guys.
Yep.
They didn't have to do it.
No, exactly. And it's we put the blame on, like, you hear a lot of people put the blame on the talent, like get mad at the talent and be disgusted with the talent and, oh, I'm not going to watch their matches. I don't like them. You know, he shouldn't be champion. It's the talent taking an opportunity that the company, the umbrella of WWE, is giving this one person. So really, you can't really individually pick out the talent and blast or chastise them for taking an opportunity that has now been presented to him. And I'm sure in his life, he's been fighting for this moment, you know, all the way through, being discriminated, being treated differently, coming over to America or Canada, you know, and North America, and you're growing up here. And
yeah, like think about this. Think about how difficult it is to be WWE champion, right? If you become WWE, it's 1 in a million chance, right? So then think about how much harder it is to become an Indian WWE champion or a black WWE champion that we've never even had ever. So it's like you got to get hit by lightning twice.
Yeah, I believe the first was Ron Simmons.
No, Ron Simmons was the first world like in WCW. The first champion, first black champion in WWE was, I think, The Rock.
Yes.
And then 20 years later, it was Kofi Kingston, who was like, he's not African-American, he's like Ghanaian from Africa.
Right.
And then we had Bobby Lashley, who's like kind of like the real like first African-American champion, I believe. I would feel like Kofi Kingston's African. And then he had that terrible Jamaican gimmick. He's not even Jamaican at all.
I was going to bring that up because that's.
So if you want to talk about fake accents, that's a fake accent.
I was going to say that we're great transition here because that was my next point. I've seen a lot of people comparing this situation or Apollo Crews to Kofi Kingston. How do you feel about the comparison? We kind of briefly talked about it, but for the listeners, again, coming from your point of view, how do you feel about
the comparison? So Kofi Kingston accent is legit fake. He is not Jamaican. He's from Africa. So yeah, he's actually using a fake accent. Apollo Crews is Nigerian. He's using a Nigerian accent. It's two different things, you know? It's two different things. So, and again, Kofi Kingston was playing a stereotypical Jamaican character. Like, he doesn't even have that accent. Like,
yeah.
So I think
the gimmick, everything. Like,
SOS, show that. He's like, dude, I'm from Africa. Like, and Hakeem the Dream, the African Dream, like
Hakeem, we love the African Dream. His dance moves were fire.
Yeah, that was That was our African champion back then. That was our African ref, Hakeem the African Dream. So
South Africa.
yeah, I got. Oh, was he South African? I don't. No, he
I
couldn't.
don't know. I just
Yeah, but there was the other guy. He was from South Africa. He was in Nexus. Justin Gabriel. A couple
Oh
years
yeah,
ago.
Gabriel.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, yeah, I think it's kind of apples and oranges to compare Apollo Crews to Kofi Kingston because again, Kofi Kingston is not Jamaican.
Not necessarily comparing the two, but how
Yeah.
the people are reacting to how they reacted to Kofi's, his run as that character compared to how they're now they're like that fake character, and how they're comparing it to Apollo's real self, like thinking that it's a character. Oh, he doesn't talk,
Yeah.
that's who he is.
Well, I mean, it just comes down to
they
the ignorance.
accept.
They can't conceptualize like they just see it as like the same thing. They can't conceptualize like no, it's completely different.
Right. So they
You
were
know?
willing to accept Kofi, but they're not willing to accept
Yeah.
Apollo.
Yeah, people I just think they have to just have really an open mind to things. Like we don't one of my favorite quotes ever is Socrates. He says, I'm the smartest man because I know my own ignorance. So I think it's important to like just listen to everybody and listen to yourself and be like, maybe I could be wrong about this. Maybe I'm not aware about this idea. Maybe let me ask someone who might know a little bit more than me about this, So I think that's important, is just really know your own ignorance. It makes you way smarter when you know how dumb you actually are.
Yep. No, for sure. That whole fake it till you make it thing. It at some point you have to make it, right?
Yeah, right.
So, a quick question for you again.
Sure.
I'm not sure where we are on time, but
we have a few minutes.
Few minutes, okay.
Yeah.
We've been talking about culture, how the universe reacts to this change that WWE is now presenting with Apollo Crews.
Yeah.
The different kind of treatment that African American or someone that's not Caucasian, typical stereotypical white male or performer inside the WWE or professional wrestling on that kind of platform gets. Yeah. Kayla Braxton recently also publicly announced that she was bisexual.
Yeah.
And she's also getting a lot of flack for that.
Yeah.
So do you is it just me, or does the WWE universe just put up this kind of blinder and just not explore and not try to figure out?
Okay, so here's the thing. And
why is this such a negative thing in your opinion?
So here's the thing, and I'm speaking from a completely minority standpoint, as being a minority my entire life. So I feel like the majority, again, they've never had to look outside the blinders. They never had to look and see something from a different perspective. There's people who were Black, there's people who were Chinese, there's people who were gay, there's people who are transgendered. But if you always had to just focus and be like white, Anglo-Saxon, straight male, of course you're not going to see from a different perspective. You know what I mean? Like my dog has a whole different perspective of my house than I do because he's a dog and I'm a person. So I never looked at things from his perspective. And then a lot of times people don't look at stuff from like minorities' perspective. So like even like the fact that she has to even come out as like, why is coming out a thing? I never, as a straight male, I never had to say, hey, everybody, I'd like to announce I'm straight. It's not a thing for us. It's not a thing for us. We just, it is what it is. So again, I think that these conversations are important because the world has to change, because the world is not just white, straight, male, Christian. It's just not. So kudos to Kayla Braxton for expressing who she is. And I hope that one day we don't have to even have these conversations of, are you gay? Are you straight? Are you this or that? It's just like, I just am. And that's all we are. We all are just something. So like, why does it matter?
We're all just people. Doesn't matter.
We're just people.
Doesn't matter your color of your skin. Doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter, like you said, your sexual preference. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
People are things. Who cares?
Exactly. And that's my mentality with it as well. I don't discriminate. I try not to discriminate, in anything, but obviously it just happens sometimes, right?
Like, and here's the thing. We try not to discriminate, but because of our backgrounds, because of our program of society, we are going to have biases that we're not even aware of. Like exactly. Even like that's what I meant. If I tell you right now, picture a nurse in your head, right? Do you picture a woman?
Oh hell yeah!
Exactly. Like why? Why? You
And
know what I
she's
mean?
already got the sponge. No.
Right. You think about it. Like why do we picture a nurse as a woman? Because we've been programmed that way. Like if you picture a basketball player, you might think tall. If you picture a rapper, you might think of a black dude. You picture a freaking banker, you might picture a Jewish dude or something. I don't know. Like so, we have biases in our head, and we have to really unravel these things and be like, hey, wait a minute, is this even correct? Does the world even look like that? Does the world even work like that? So I think that's why it's important to have these type of conversations and really understand, like, hey, we're not as smart as we think we are.
No, far from it. And again, that's our ignorance. That tells us that's our self pride, that's our self ego, that doesn't allow us for change. It doesn't allow growth. We hoard what we know and we keep what we retained, and nothing other than that or what we've been taught matters, or it doesn't change.
We like consistency, but the world is not how it's been presented to us. It's just not. It's not.
No, not at all. And again, I'm sure we're wrapping up on time. And again, I don't want to take this too long, but for me personally, if I can give anyone advice out there, I'm not the guy to give advice. But in terms of this topic and everything that we've mentioned today, for me, would just say, hey, it's time to get uncomfortable, to get comfortable, because change is happening. And if you're not willing to not really accept, but adjust to it, you know what I mean?
The world is changing. It is. People have voices now.
You don't even really have to accept it. Keep that to yourself, obviously, because no one else needs to hear the negativity. But I mean, you still have to adjust to that change, whether you're accepting it or not. You have to. And it's the right thing to do. It's morally the right thing to do. And it just needs to happen a little bit quicker, hopefully. And going back to our topic of today was being Apollo Crews. I think, again, like I said earlier, he is now a front runner for someone to stand up for themselves, to publicly say, this is what I believe in, to show a strong self, Black African American man, sorry, showing his true colors and not being afraid of the consequences or the reaction, I guess I should say, because his actions are going to have a lot of reactions, and we've seen them online. A lot of negative, some positive, and a lot of people in the gray area.
But, and I get it, and I get why these reactions are coming, but again, like you said, we have to accept that the world's different. We got to embrace that.
Times are changing.
Not everyone in the world is white, male, straight, Christian. There's other variations. We live in a multiverse. So there's a lot of different types of people with different backgrounds, different speech patterns going on. So just be aware that, the world is not as black and white as we think it was. I mean, hey, black and white comes in different hues as well. So
exactly. Different shades.
Yeah.
And if, again, any closing statements, Jared, that you want to add to our topic on today, or anything regarding Apollo?
I really liked what he's doing. I hope he continues to move up the card as he should. He's qualified to be there. His character work's great. I wish that guy the best, and I hope that through his new storyline, his new attitude, I hope it opens up more conversations, and I hope that it opens up the opportunity for more performers to rise up in the card.
No, for sure. That'd be great.
I also hope that the comments, if everyone has any questions, I would like to be kind of like give people a different perspective on stuff. So if anyone has questions in the comments, just feel free to comment away. I'll do my best to reply to people, and let's continue to further the conversation so we can have more people get opportunity. Because if one person's not free, then none of us are free. So
exactly.
Yeah,
it's true. We're on the same boat. So It doesn't matter where you're from, like we said before. So
doesn't matter if you're black or white, like the great Michael Jackson once said. But I think that about wraps it up. Thanks for watching, people. If you like our content, make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the notification button to get more notifications about our new content. Make sure you follow us on our Instagram at WrestlingNeverSleeps, on Facebook at WrestlingNeverSleeps, and on Twitter at WNS_TV. I'm sure Adam is going to interrupt me as I sign up. So any last questions? Yeah, it's an ongoing joke between us. All right, well, that wraps it up. I'm Jared Never Sleeps. for my very handsome co-host, the straight shoot in a suit, Adam Anthony James Martin. Good night. We will see you on Tuesday for the Raw review and potentially tomorrow for the Revolution.
Oh, the Revolution.
The Revolution.
With a little bit of the bubbly.
Who's the secret man? Who is the secret man?
Oh, yes. The talk of the whole week should be really interesting. Oh, you got me to talk. You're closing, and now you got me talking again.
Yeah, we're going to have like a little WWE copyright thing right here to let us know we're ending off. But stay tuned. We'll see you guys tomorrow or Tuesday. Good night, good morning, good evening, whatever frame of mind you're in. Goodbye.